Hello, people. Sorry that we're late. This is the Seattle Overload podcast. Please do like, subscribe, comment, review, follow, all that good shenanigans. It's high energy podcasting. Always.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, the preamble.
Matty?
Great to see so many people in the chat, by the way. Griff seems a mix of Verizon. There was an outage in northern Seattle, but it's been resolved.
Mm.
Great stuff. Happy for you, Mon Jumbo.
I don't have Verizon, so I can't speak to that. This
from Cody. Yeah. Lovely picture, Cody, there as well. Very kind of topical. What, Griff, I mean, the people deserve an answer here. What do you make of that statement?
Matty, you're wading dangerous waters here, because I was in my seat in the lobby for StreamYard while you were getting water. So what do you have to say about yourself?
Literally dangerous water. I don't have much to say.
Your tea again?
No, I didn't spill any tea.
Stop cry over spilled tea. Do you guys say don't cry over spilled milk over there?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
so
but we're like, oh, don't get in a tiz over your spilt calcium.
You really say spilled? Do you guys like call milk calcium just for like?
Yeah. No, really? We call it cow juice. Cow juice.
No, you don't. That's
well,
really
you'll never know, because you're never going to come here. You're not welcome, and that's that.
All right, Matty, I have a question for you.
Well, just hold on. Before you ask your question, in like the fashion that Pete Carroll did today, I don't have to answer it. So.
Well, that's because you're afraid to compete. Are you afraid to compete?
No, I am in fact competing by telling you that I don't have to answer it.
Well, I'm going to ask it anyway. All right, I've been thinking about this for a while.
Okay.
Are our bodies just a vessel for our thoughts, or are our thoughts just a code to keep our bodies running? Or we can talk about practice squad picks. I mean, we don't have to talk about this.
That's a stupid question.
It was just, it was just on my mind.
I think the second,
not a big deal.
The latter.
Or do you reject the premise?
No. Well, I didn't, I rubbished the premise, but I think there is some validity to it. I think the second thing, the latter thing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I don't know. What is this? Because it's been a while since I've taken Philosophy 101. This is like Descartes dualism. But I feel like, see, there's what things are, and then there's how our brain interprets it to make sense of it. So like the mental is the physical. The physical is the mental. Thoughts can be abstract, subjective things. That doesn't mean they don't have physical properties. But even if they have physical properties, it's okay to talk about them in a subjective, abstract manner, because it's easier for us to digest. That's what makes humans so fascinating, that we can use abstract language to like pack and unpack the world around us, I think.
Could you use a real world example?
I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm talking about.
What I was thinking?
We don't need to have an existential crisis live on air.
No, but what I was thinking?
What were you thinking?
I was thinking, I really like it how Gordon Ramsay, when he's like alphaing someone, he calls them big boy.
Yeah.
I might start doing it. Obviously, I alpha people on the regular, so I might
you do it to me all the time.
Are you okay, big boy?
Yeah, this is what you're asking.
I'm going to add that to my my repertoire.
That's a good segue. Yeah. I feel like it's both, though. I feel like the physical becomes mental and mental becomes physical. It's all the whatever.
Jen's talking about the moon. The moon is amazing. It was amazing here like 5 hours ago. Not showing off or anything, but I'm hoping we can finish this and I can go outside again and still see the moon and not the sun.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. See, our moon is a little off kilter right now because, or the filtering is anyway, because of the wildfire smoke.
Oh,
So
well, that
we've
might
got
look
like a
more
blood red
incredible, to be
thing.
honest, because it's really bright, like very, very bright.
Yeah.
So there'll be
Yeah.
lots of nice artsy shots, I imagine, of downtown Seattle with this bright moon and like wildfire smoke. Oh dear.
You know, let's keep the philosophy for the run fits. I think my brain can handle that better.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you did bring it up, and Trey is
No, you
asking
brought
a
it
good
up.
point.
I didn't bring it up.
Trey, very good question there. Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's start the podcast.
Yeah.
Preamble over. Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where Griff and I are cut down reacting. The Seahawks have whittled their roster down from 90 men to 53. They've signed, I think it's 15 to their practice squad. I know they have an open spot there, though, which will probably be filled by the time you're listening to this. But yeah, they've done some stuff. Pete Carroll also had a press conference where he revealed some injury news, or didn't really, but you can kind of read in between the lines. And Seattle's added 2 new players to their active roster, 2 outsiders joining the Seahawks, and Griff and I have some takes on that too. So Griff, in terms of how they whittled down this roster, they did quite a good job, right? Like they managed to get basically everyone you'd expect onto the practice squad. So that is Holton Ahlers, the quarterback, Matt Landers, wide receiver, Lance Boykin, cornerback, Artie Burns, cornerback, which we can talk about. Roderick Thompson, running back, Ty Okada, strong safety, Brian Koback, running back, Patrick O'Connell, inside linebacker, Joey Hunt, center, Greg Ireland, tackle/guard, Matt Gotel, nose tackle, Tyler Mabry, tight end, Aesop Winston Jr., wide receiver, Kay Johnson, wide receiver, Levi Bell, edge. So, Griff, no real surprises, and Pete Carroll spoke about how he wanted to keep this group together and that they were going to try and do that, and John Schneider's kind of achieved that. So before we dive into the 2 new Seahawks, what are your takes on this?
Yeah, it all seems like good stuff. No real surprises. It's good to have a guy like Gotel on the roster. It kind of fits in with what we have been talking about all preseason between him and Roderick Perry. Although I am surprised that Perry didn't make it. I'm taking the L on that one. I thought he outplayed Gotel by a little bit, but it's they get eventual contributors out of their practice squad defensive linemen. Not every year, but Brian Monet, Brandon Jackson, Quentin Jefferson was on practice squad for a bit, or at least was with the Rams. So it's not like these players can't never contribute. At the same time, you know, you kind of have like emergency depth, like Joey Hunt. Like we know what Joey Hunt is, but he's emergency depth. He's played NFL games before. Kind of same deal with Kay Johnson and Tyler Mabry. Mabry probably will get called up at some point because they'll just need bodies at the position, and they kind of know what they have in Mabry. And then kind of same deal with Patrick O'Connell. If someone gets hurt and they need a special teamer, well, like just call Patrick up, and then, you know, if you need an emergency snaps here and there, then he can give you those snaps because he at least can function like an NFL linebacker. The one guy that maybe jumps out from like a potential standpoint, maybe Lance Boykin, but particularly I think we would all agree that it's Levi Bell, just because he showed flash and juice. He just wasn't quite settled enough. But that's what practice squad is for. Like, give them a whole year of just raising their floor a little bit, becoming a little bit more functional at the little things, and then seeing if the talent can catch up, and doing, being able to show more, later. So, yeah.
It's absolutely for that. And Levi Bell, you're right. He is that kind of player where he just needed an extra year, basically learning stuff. You know, there is a world where he gets activated. It's probably not this season unless something catastrophic happens to the roster, which hopefully doesn't. But that's what he needs, and he, down the line, he could be the new Nick Ballore. He could play a bit of fullback. He's 262 pounds, 5'11". So, that's dense and short and pad level and all those fun things which translate to offense and defense. But for now, he is a practice squad guy. The other side of the practice squad is you mentioned Joey Hunt as a name. He is not a guy you want to be starting an NFL game. And really, if again a catastrophe happened with, for instance, say Evan Brown got hurt and then Olu Oluwatimi got hurt as well, Joey Hunt coming in for more than like 2 or even 1 game would be a worry. So why is he on the practice squad? Well, centers are relatively hard to find, and the league has a dearth of offensive line depth. That's part of it, yes. But also, Joey Hunt being in this the interior of this offensive line, this is part of the scout team, and they need guys who are smart enough, and Joey Hunt has been praised for his smarts on multiple occasions by Seattle's coaching staff and also John Schneider as well. But he has the smarts to be able to mimic other offenses, and I think he probably is very important in that sense for the team as well. So he brings that side to the game. Now, you mentioned Roderick Perry. He's a name who will be kind of the guys who aren't on this practice squad, including Perry. Mm-hmm. They're on like a list in Seattle's front office where they know them. They've probably elaborated to them that, hey, we might have you back at some point in time. They just kind of need to shuffle the back end of the roster, the practice squad as well, as to what they need. Now, Artie Burns was put on the practice squad. He was initially named in the initial 53. But before we cover how that happened, actually, it's worth covering what happened at the safety position, not cornerback. So Jonathan Sutherland and Joey Blunt played really good football in the preseason. Sutherland primarily as a nickel, Blunt mainly as a kind of safety, but he did play some nickel too. But unfortunately for the pair, they were both waived with an injury designation. I believe Sutherland received an injury settlement. So in terms of what that means for Sutherland, that means he can re-sign with the team 3 weeks after the length of the settlement. So say if it was a 6-week settlement, this is per Brady Henderson of ESPN, he could then re-sign in week 10. And Brady Henderson has reported Sutherland agreed to a 6-week injury settlement. So he could re-sign with Seattle in week 9 as the settlement began before that week 1 period. Now, he only had a calf injury, so to me, this reads a bit more like only a calf injury. Obviously, there's severities to everything. But to me, Griff, it would be surprising if Sutherland wasn't back with the team, and the same with Blunt at some point.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. They clearly show that they belong as players. In a way, them getting hurt is, it's bad for them either way, but with the numbers at safety, it's the only way to keep everyone involved in the picture. And, they can still come back mid-season still, potentially. So, we're just talking months and months down the line. But yeah, I like that they're able to keep them around.
Yeah, and I may owe you an apology here because I believe I had a moment of madness. I can't remember exactly what I said because I just spiraled into some kind of argument about how Sutherland was...
as you are wont to do, I mean.
Yeah, like always.
But a mess in the
it's
DMs.
Something to do with Sutherland being ahead of Kobe Bryant or something.
Well, I mean, we'll never know because he's hurt right now.
Right, there you go. Yeah, spoken like a true Coper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you have to incubate yourself in a variety of hedging.
Yeah, his calf must be really badly hurt for this to happen.
Yeah. But he's an intriguing player, and I think in a perfect world that he would not be called upon to play significant snaps this year, because I still saw that there are some blemishes in his game.
His zone coverage.
You're right. But like, he showed a lot that it's hard to get out. It's hard to get out of 205-pound bodies, what they got out of him or what he got out of himself. He's a dense 205, but still, the fact that he showed that, I think ideally, we want Love and Jamal kind of in that role, and it's going to have to be Kobe until Jamal gets back. But I mean, Kobe has more NFL experience. He has a diverse NFL experience for, only a year of experience, but that year still is more than Sutherland. So, um, I don't know. We'll see how it all goes, but, yeah, I don't know. I hope we see Sutherland down the line. I mean, Joey Blunt, he only played one game in preseason, but he did flash. I mean, he did. So,
There you go. So the reason that Artie Burns is on the practice squad is that Seattle made 2 successful waiver claims. So none of their guys got claimed by teams around the league, but Seattle put in their waiver claims and they got 2 new additions to the roster. That also saw John Rattigan get released, linebacker John Rattigan, because Seattle picked up inside linebacker Drake Thomas from Las Vegas, a 2023 undrafted free agent out of NC State, and cornerback Kyu Blue Kelly from Baltimore, a 2023 fifth-round pick out of Stanford. That was the highest draft pick waived by any team this year on cutdown day. And so these are interesting guys. Griff, who do you want to talk about first?
well, I'm curious. Did you have any thoughts about the corner? Did you have any prior preconception there, or any prior conception?
It had
of
been
who he
suggested
was?
to me by a few people who were paying attention to that. I think mainly because Blue Kelly has 32-inch long arms, that I should watch him in the pre-draft process. I didn't. However, I have rapidly watched through his 3 games with the Baltimore Ravens in this preseason. And, I can see in a way why he was waived because, technically he's giving up catches and his stuff. He just needs more time, to kind of settle down with the technique. But I also thought the Ravens didn't help him. He's clearly much more comfortable on the right side of the defense, and he was getting put in a lot of left-sided matchups. He's kind of intriguing to me as well because at Stanford, he played 33% of his snaps in a press coverage alignment, which Seattle obviously likes. And he's kind of physical and scrappy and contests the ball well. And the tackling, even in the NFL as well, in those preseason games, it looked solid. Now, Pete Carroll, in his press conference today, was enthusiastic about him. It's clearly someone he'd been looking at before the draft, and obviously they evaluate everyone, but he said saw him all through the process, liked him as a cover guy and hit well, and reminded me of another Stanford corner I'd seen back in the day. Very high praise.
Yeah.
Kind of long and looked really in control, body control wise and all that kind of stuff. That was really cool. Now, watching that Baltimore tape I talked about, he uses a step kick press when he's up against a tight end, which is quite common around the league. He's more of a soft shoe guy in the technique he was using with the Ravens, at least. But he has a assured patience and a way of unlocking his hips at the line of scrimmage, which is like Sherm. So I agree with Carroll's assessment there that there are definite similarities in the way these guys move and play press. And I liked how he picked up some route combos as well in zone when playing off. So, he's not the fastest. The burst is kind of a question mark for me. But yeah, it's a cool option. And ultimately, is Artie Burns going to play? Yes, because of the way that the practice squad rules have changed, the way they can activate vets each week. Artie Burns getting back to the practice squad, that's cool. It's worked out like that. It's enabled Seattle to basically get another 5th-round pick and an interesting dude at that. It's also cool how Blue Kelly's dad apparently played with for Monte Kiffin in Tampa. So
it is interesting.
Like 25 years ago or something. So,
and there's something to be said that they wanted to pluck this guy and put him right on their 53. When they have a pretty high opinion of Artie Burns, as opinions go of the bottom of the roster corner. And this time last year, I was talking up Artie Burns about how he came off 6 high quality games as a starter for the Chicago Bears. So, and it's not like Artie is ancient, he's like what is he, 28, 29? And obviously he was hurt, but like he's not a slouch of a player, and he played well against Green Bay. So I don't know.
Who did? Artie Burns?
Yeah.
Yeah, so on that subject, he did play well, and Pete Carroll was asked why they were playing him at nickel. I wondered, was flip-flopping between, was the idea to try and get trade interest? I mean, it kind of doubles up as that, doesn't it? But he said that they were just looking ahead and thinking of Artie being on the team and expanding his role. And then Pete and obviously Kobe Bryant was playing safety in that game too. But then Pete mentioned that he thought he played a very, very good football game, maybe one of his better games he's played for us.
Yeah. Yes, indeed, he did. So, I mean, we'll see where this goes. Hopefully this year we don't have to see him play unless it's in a blowout, because if we do, it means someone got hurt. But yeah, and the roster is still in flux. Obviously, as we know, they could still make IR decisions. They could still cut guys off practice squad, add new guys in. They do that all year, but especially the first 2 weeks, that stuff changes all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of a wait and see thing.
So it's cool Patrick O'Connell got onto the practice squad. He survived the waiver claims. More than deserved like that. I mean, again, the practice squad's kind of perfect for him as an inside backer, because while he fit the run really well and found the ball well and showed like the instincts you'd want in that position, he could stand to add a bit more size, like his hip power and ability to bring backs down one-on-one was, but also his coverage stuff, just he needs more experience and time learning like the NFL coverage is. But Seattle, the second guy they added was an inside linebacker, Drake Thomas, out of NC State, which saw John Rattigan released, and he will also presumably be signed to the practice squad and very well may be the guy who they activate, the second guy that they're allowed to activate because of his special teams prowess. We will see. But very cool having Drake Thomas arrive, because he was like, he's another one of these guys who very short arms, undersized, 228 pounds, not like a fast tester, kind of unathletic. Like I said, was an undrafted free agent. That tends to happen for a reason. Played like kind of an outside backer spot at NC State in like a 3-3-5 defense, where sometimes he's down at the line of scrimmage on the edge, sometimes he's off the ball. But in the preseason for the Raiders, he was like their preseason favorite, getting rave reviews in camp, rave reviews out of games. He had 1 pressure, 23 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, which was first among the rookie linebackers in the class. 10 stops, which is first among rookie linebackers, 4th among all linebackers. And Pete Carroll as well was big time enthused about him.
Yeah. And I didn't know much about him. I remembered his name coming up a lot during the pre-draft process as you kind of went down the line of off-ball linebackers. But yeah, also that he was an edge too, in addition. And Josh McDaniels was really upset that he got away from them. So I mean, all indicators point in the direction of he's an interesting guy to watch. And again, they put him on their 53. So I imagine he immediately is an impact special teams player. I wonder how much that informed their decision making to try to bring him on, because they're always looking for an edge somewhere, and they know that their 4th linebacker probably isn't going to play very much in actual like games outside of special teams. Now they know that Bobby is probably not going to be on the team next year. He'll probably, I don't know. I'm making assumptions, but Bobby's not in the long-term plans, right? They don't know what Brooks's long-term situation is just by virtue of him having a contract situation, and then Devin Bush is on a 1-year deal. So maybe they're looking toward the future and they see some potential there. But in the interim, I think it's just how can we improve every unit of our roster And obviously, when you're looking at a depth linebacker and you're willing to put them on your 53 for this at this point in time, given your current linebacker situation, I would have to think they're primarily thinking, hey, we can really get a playmaker on special teams, because that can add up over the course of a season.
Yeah, Pete Carroll mentioned, called him a ball player, really instinctive, really natural, and finds the football really well, hits with everything he's got. And not the biggest guy, but he brings everything. But the emphasis for Pete really was on the special teams, saying very effective special teams guy as well. And basically, they're going to work him into the special teams right off the bat, and then see where he goes from there. And the point of these two additions is, with the fact that Seattle's managed to get the other guys on their practice squad, inside backer, after Devin Bush and Patrick O'Connell, inside backer looked ropey, like rough. Now Rattigan made the initial 53, the very initial emphasis on that word 53, due to his special teams ability. But now they've potentially found a special teams guy who's also a better player than Rattigan. We'll have to see. They'll probably shuffle that around still and play around with what they're getting from that. Now the other position, cornerback, getting Blue Kelly in, in that situation, it's a similar deal where after Artie Burns, I wasn't impressed by any of the corners really. Now Lance Boykin has made the practice squad for a reason, but they've upgraded their depth there. They've made two pretty simple moves to upgrade their depth, but crucially kept the core of the group together like Pete Carroll wanted to as well. So you can't really, they've made it look easy, but they've done a good job. Like, hats off to John Schneider for making this happen, because I'd imagine this is all. From the outside looking in, it looks very stressful, but they managed to do it. So,
and as 90-man rosters go, they must have felt really good about their 90-man group. The fact that all their practice squatters are their guys. That's usually how that goes. But they're 50. They only made two claims. So, and still there are guys that didn't make the practice squad that definitely. If they did, I don't think anyone would have been surprised, even though I'm taking the loss on Perry. I don't think anyone would have batted an eye if he had made it.
Well, right? I've just remembered as well, Griff, Jacob Sykes.
Yeah, Sykes didn't make it either. Now, in hindsight, you can kind of fashion an argument for why they didn't, and it makes sense. But still, like if Sykes did, people would be like, "Oh yeah, sure, yeah, why not?"
So, and Pete Carroll has repeatedly said how much they loved the group, and he said today how we're hoping to keep as many as possible to keep things moving in the same direction. We like what's going on. So couldn't get it all done, but we're trying to. And really, again, Sykes is another guy who'll be on that list. They need to work out what's happening with Mike Morris, because if Mike Morris isn't healthy enough or whatnot, then you might see on the back end of the practice squad someone like a Sykes who has that kind of 4-3 tech versatility come in just to shore up the options there, or potentially a vet comes in. That's the type of stuff the type of churn which is going to happen still, and we kind of have to pay attention to. Same thing with when Carroll was asked about the nose tackle situation, he mentions Cameron Young, who's back practicing, but if Cam Young can't, get it together, then Carroll was also keen to mention Gotel, and him making the practice squad shows what he was able to bring in, what was less playing time, less opportunities than what Roderick Perry got, right?
Right.
The other thing with nose tackle to remember is that Austin Faliu.
Yep.
Austin Faliu. He is on the PUP list, as is Brian Monet. So they've got two nose tackles in waiting. Monet, obviously, almost 350 pounds, whereas Austin is under 310, or at least is listed there. So more of that kind of shade guy. But those are two guys who will churn it up again.
Yeah, and Pete made interesting comments. Mike Dugar asked a really good question about what am I trying to say? Like tweaking things at nose tackle, and not really like large big differences between the guys. But Pete mentioned how, like, yeah, we just want to accentuate, the different body types that can play in there. And so, like, right there, you've got two totally different body types.
Yep.
Yeah.
As ever, chicken or the egg, right? Like, what comes first, scheme or player types? But
Right.
Pete will always say that he's doing what his players can do. That's his objective. So
Yeah.
okay, so that's practice squad done. That's waivers done. Now we're now in regular season mode, and with regular season mode, as the Seattle Seahawks prepare for Week 1 against the Los Angeles Rams, comes Pete Carroll caution and a reluctance to reveal details. And because Pete is such a lovely guy, he still couldn't help himself speaking a bit. So there's obviously question marks over the health of Jackson Smith-Njigba, over Devin Witherspoon. Not great when both your first-round picks have questions heading into the season.
Great. We're not fans of it.
Yeah, so let's start with Jackson Smith-Njigba, because that's who Pete started with and was most willing to share about until he realised he didn't need to, or remembered. So he said he's hoping that he's ready for Week 1, and that it could have gone a number of different ways. It's gone the way of the competitor. Man, he's not going to be denied. He wants to play football. So, like, turns out I heard, but didn't realise at the time, that JSN had a strong chance. It was a minor fracture, and that he had a strong chance of being ready for Week 1. Like, he could make it happen. And it was a 3 to 4 week timeline from that surgery. And Pete Carroll then also mentioned that 10-day thing in his quote on JSN. JSN returned to practice exactly 10 days after he had the surgery. So that kind of matches that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Rams game might be a stretch, but we'll have to see. But
I
hugely
think
positive, because that could have been like a 3-month, 4-month thing. Like, it clearly wasn't as severe as it could have been.
the fact that he's practicing and still able to catch and everything, I feel like between now and he's got how many days? 11 days. I feel like he'll get there. I think he'll get there. So I maybe the major issue is not actually being able to function as a receiver, but taking hits to it might be the bigger concern for the trainers.
That's what would worry me, because he's got this brace, and it's like, if you just get hit, surely that can widen the crack. I'm not a doctor,
but Pete's a doctor, coach, and he predicted that he was going to be back. It was a slight fracture. He was mocked, but he's already back. So already back practicing.
Good point. So the other stuff, it was less detailed, and those reporters, they tried. But really, the media had their chance. They should have been asking this every press conference, getting updates. No, it's not that easy. But yeah, they tried and they kind of failed. But the long and short of it is Pete was being very coy about Devin Witherspoon. My understanding is they're kind of keeping it cautious with him, and I don't know about Week 1 really with him, but I just know he's progressing nicely. But yeah, 2 soft tissue hamstring injuries in one off season is not great, and that's probably why they're being so cautious.
Yeah. He did say he was running, like, as of 2 weeks ago. He has been running.
Yes, so it must be extra caution, right?
And maybe it's one of those things where and like he's improving a lot, and then there's a slight lapse, but not like back to square one. Like if he's a 7 out of 10 on the recovery and he goes back down to a 6, maybe they proceed with way more caution to ensure that he's not going to regress more. I don't know. I'm just totally speculating. But he's been running for a while, since like the middle of August. Like he's
running.
Yeah. So I don't know what's really happening there. I'm not really worried about like his actual ability to get on the field, because once he does, I think it'll be fine. I worry about the lost reps. If he's a guy that they're trying to work in at nickel and outside corner. I mean, that's so much football to learn. Obviously, we've talked about how at nickel, he's not really going to be in the circumstances and situations where he kind of function as like a safety effectively, like a big nickel. I feel like it's more for their ability to play cover 1 and cover 3 against 11 personnel and pass downs. That's where the value is really exciting. I still think for the most part, he's going to be an outside corner. And Pete reiterated that again, that like, yeah, when he's actually able to practice, he's absolutely factoring on the outside at left corner. I think that was always the plan. I just view the nickel thing as a bonus, as an extra. So I don't know. Once he's out there, that's more what I worry about.
David says, I remember Sean Springs having big hammy problems as a rookie and needing surgery. David, that was before my time, but that doesn't sound good.
I have fond memories of Sean Springs, but I do not recall him needing. I don't recall his rookie year. I can't say I recall that. So that
it's probably because he didn't play and had hamstring problems.
Yeah. But yeah, that's something. I mean, hopefully it doesn't come to that.
No,
hopefully it doesn't come to that.
So if it does come to that, you kind of talked about the nickel role for Witherspoon, and like how generally he's going to be more of a passing down nickel, and if he's playing in a nickel, Seattle might actually on those passing downs be in a dime personnel anyway, and have 6 defensive backs out there, so have a kind of more safety type in the box as well. And against spread formations, you might have the safety over one slot and the corner or the nickely type on or the more cornery type nickel over the other slot. But with that said, against the Rams style of offense too, who is the nickel if Witherspoon can't go? Because obviously Kobe Bryant received work there in the preseason, but they wouldn't be able to play as much man coverage, I don't think. Now, against the Rams, do you even play much man coverage with how condensed they get?
Yeah, no, you don't. And then do you even bother playing like outside rotation cover 3 that much? Or are you trying to get more matchy within your cover 3 just because like they're gonna just go into under center, and that kind of defeats the purpose at a certain point. It's more you want to catch them when they go spread, when you want to be in that call, when you feel like it. So I feel like we're just going to see, them interchanging palms and half quarter, their 2 high zone stuff, zone match. Like I don't really have I don't think they're going to be structurally broken by the Rams. I worry more like, I worry more, like in the sense that I don't think they're going to go over the top on them. It's just going to be more the dink and dunk stuff, the chunk gains. Really, it's going to matter like what they're doing with the linebackers in that game,
and whether the linebackers can do it.
Right, because we don't know how they're going to use them. We don't know who's going to be where, and then once that's settled, we don't know how they're going to be using them, how they've used the mic in their 2 high zone match stuff has not exactly been encouraging. And I don't know, and I can't tell what is being asked of the player and what is the backups just not knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
It honestly, it kind of projects, or what's the word? It signals using Bobby the way that the Rams used Bobby last year, which I've said 1,000 times was good for Bobby, but was not good for the Rams.
Yeah, but I think the difference is they're not trying to run the. I think the difference is the coverage has a better rest of the structure to accommodate that. Even though I acknowledge that it's leaving a similar kind of space, I think the rest of the, I would be shocked if they do leave, if the safeties don't are more in tune to that in the season.
So McVay will definitely shift them into empty and see what he can get away with the protection. It will be the pass rush being able to kill their empty protection is what will protect Bobby if Bobby's playing Mike in those circumstances.
Yeah. So quickly going back to the other nickel thing, is the other question mark obviously is Jamal Adams, and Pico I think said he didn't practice today, but I don't know if he confirmed like he was being coy, but I think the implication certainly is that Adams didn't practice today. And at a certain point, it's now or never. Like, and with him being the kind of strong safety type of nickel, the way that Jonathan Sutherland was used in the preseason, like if they want to run nickel as much as they do, as we've said, they're doing techniques up front which are better. There's more logic to the way that they're going to fit the run out of the nickel and any front really, but out of that nickel forefront we're talking about here. And they're going to involve that nickel type body, strong safety type body in the kind of, it's almost like the old Sam off the ball outside linebacker in a 4-3, that kind of role. Adams is perfect for that, but if he can't go, then who takes that role? Do they ask Kobe Bryant to do it? It's just a completely different skill set there, even though Bryant showed the ability to run, hit, and play kind of fast. So
yeah, I mean, I worry more about just knowing all the checks and knowing how to do what against certain formations and motions and everything. Like that's half the battle. Like I don't doubt Kobe's desire to go like lay his body out. It's more like how do you position yourself and angle yourself, and how do you do you know all the calls? Because to your point, like he did not play nickel in preseason. He doesn't have any live. I'm sure he's done it in practice, but he doesn't have any live reps doing it against other teams yet. The way that they're doing things this year. I mean, obviously, what he did last year will still translate enough, and it's not like he'll be a fish out of water, but how he handles the tweaks will be something to look for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because of that, do they just play more half quarter stuff he's more familiar with?
They couldn't they? Interesting.
So I don't know. But real quick with Jamal, I feel like the goal is, if he was ever going to play week 1, I feel like the goal that they had circled was next Monday for practice anyway. Yeah. I don't think it was this week.
And we should say the team is really tightening things up in terms of what reporters are allowed to see and access. Reporters today said they couldn't see Adams out on the field, but, it would suit the Seahawks to keep him in the locker room for an extra minute and then get him out there. What I'd say is the scheme this season is clearly done with Adams' abilities in mind. Like if he can get healthy, he's going to have a lot of fun this year. Now, going back, I don't know if we covered it properly, but if JSN can't go, and even if JSN can go, the big story, the major story, which I wrote about at SeahawksOnTape.com, my Substack is free to subscribe, you should subscribe, is wide receiver Jake Bobo making the roster. Yep, the 25-year-old rookie with a 4.99 second 40, or maybe it was 4.7 and it was wet, but anyway, it was slow, and he is kind of slow. The undrafted free agent has made the active roster, and is not even making the initial roster. He's a wide receiver 3/4, more of a 4. But Griff, we kind of already spoke about Bobo. However, we started the year, even after that first preseason game, saying that we didn't think he could play on, make the roster because of, all those factors I've just mentioned.
Yeah.
X being difficult, all of that stuff. Griff, we've covered Bobo, but do you want to apologize to the Bobo? Are you a Bobo person? Are you part of the Bo Brotherhood?
I feel like you earned that label, and the only reason why I'm not calling myself a Bobo is I just don't think I've earned it. It's not because I have anything against Jake Bobo. But early on, we were thinking Dwayne Eskridge was making the team. We thought Derek Young would be healthy enough. We had Kate Johnson and Cody Thompson on the mind. And then, so really we'd be talking about battling for that 6th spot, but now by default, he's probably outplayed Cody Thompson and Kate Johnson. Who also themselves have been hurt.
Cody Thompson banged his shoulder against the Cowboys, so.
Right. So, he's earned his way up there. I mean, there has been some good luck there, but he's every opportunity he's been given, he's taken full advantage of, and he's been doing things in camp too. Like practices matter still. So right now he's just when they go in 11 personnel week 1, he is the 3rd receiver out there as it stands right now. Unless they're really high on Cody Thompson, because again, they have a lot of history with him. They know more about him than we know that they know. So it could be Cody, but I mean, right now, if you can only go off of the preseason games, you would think it's absolutely Jake Bobo is out there when they go into 11.
Yeah, and good for him.
He has a cool skill set. I mean, he's 6'4" and he gets open. We're not. I mean, can he post a guy up and high point the ball? Like, yeah, maybe he can do that. But I'm more excited about him the fact that he is a separator with a large frame. I mean, because large frames matter even when you're not jumping. It's like the implicit, hitbox, as I've said before.
He's veteran Josh Gordon signing with Seattle, but with a quarterback who will actually throw the dig route.
No, Matt, he's Joe Jurevicius.
Ah, right.
He's Wes Welker if he was 6'4" and ran a 4.9.
Okay, brilliant.
He's Chris Collinsworth if he didn't run a 4.4.
Yeah. So,
which, by the way, do we forget that Chris Collinsworth ran a 4.4 in the 70s?
I think we do forget that. That's kind of nuts. That explains a few things. Carroll said about Bobo's skill set, he's a unique player and he's got a real knack, very natural hand-eye coordination and feel and body control and all that kind of stuff. It really stands out. If you want to read more about the kind of circumstances, look at the clips, do check out that article I wrote on how he made the roster. But yeah, his usage, like they prepared him for it in the preseason as like kind of that Z, or as you guys would say, Z receiver, the guy off the line of scrimmage, the guy coming in motion. And essentially he's going to fit in where Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf aren't going to be doing. He's shown the ability with that kind of separation skills. And, you'd imagine even on like the tertiary part of the concept or the backside or maybe even like as the play starts to break down, just that ability to get open at the right time, understanding defender technique that, it's an excellent complement to what Seattle have. So what a cool story. Good for him.
Mm-hmm.
And we were slightly wrong, but, we've been proved wrong by a very cool competition.
Yep. Indeed.
So finally, Griff, the date is, here it's the 31st of August. Wow.
Is it? Oh, wow.
If you're listening to this podcast, 5-star review it. And also it will be the 31st of August. But if you're watching live, it's the 30th of August, unless you are in a different time zone like I am. And Griff, Seattle has some history with some blockbuster trades around this time of year. Now, we have spoke about this before, but I like to indulge you. I'm kind of enabling you. Your sad addiction. However, there are two noteworthy factors. The first one being that Chris Jones.
Oh.
Ever heard of him? It's quite a generic name.
Man, that's too much. It would take too much. The contract, if they pay him, they can't pay Jordan Brooks basically, and they can't pay like two other people.
Well,
they'd have to cut Jamal.
Well, can I explain the Chris Jones situation, please?
Yeah. My apologies.
He hasn't showed up. He doesn't even want to play in Kansas City. He's on the reserve did not report list, and he's holding out for a new contract. Why can't Seattle afford $30 million a year and give up a first-round pick, Griff? Tell me why.
Because they got a franchise quarterback, baby, and they're paying him. Such is life. This
isn't you.
Who is this?
I don't even recognize you.
That's why they need to go the Goldilocks route. And see, look at all their past trades that have been outside of the Jamal trade. That
is obscene.
They clearly have a limit where they're willing to part with a high mid or a high day 2 pick for a good player. And they're willing to see if they can get surplus value on it or not. If they had retained, not to relitigate the Clowney trade, I don't even know how people feel about it. I think people assume it was a bad trade just because they didn't retain the player, but they got out of Jadeveon Clowney exactly who they thought they were getting. The sack numbers weren't there, but I mean the pressure rate was high. He was gap versatile. He was a really good run defender. He got them really good interior pressure.
What did they give for Clowney? Jacob Martin as well, right?
Martin and a 3rd-round pick,
Yeah.
right? And then Dwayne Brown, they gave up a 2nd-round pick and had top 10 left tackle play for
And
4 years.
there was no player in the Dwayne Brown trade.
I don't believe so.
Because
I
I'm
don't
just
believe
thinking,
so.
like, Jimmy Graham, Jamie Graham, like, that pick gets, that trade, sorry, gets pretty much, like, the vast majority of people would say that was a bad trade, wouldn't they? And culturally, the giving up Max Unger in return caused some issues. But I think, obviously Graham as well, culturally, that he wasn't ever going to run block. But they got like that year of crazy touchdown production, and you
Well,
kind of
and
saw the vision with Russ and how
yeah,
that kind of helped.
and then he had the volume yardage production the year before. I mean, he had 900 yards for a tight end. Like, I don't care that he didn't get 1,300 like he did in New Orleans. Considering the offense they ran, he was their second target. He was important. And then the Carlos Dunlap trade happened before the trade deadline, right? And it was like a 7th-round pick in BJ Finney. So I guess the point here is that they clearly have a sweet spot in their mind where they're willing to spend a little bit and to take a swing on a guy. So I feel like, the league right now, it was a buyer's market this past offseason. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, what did he go for? A 2nd-round pick?
Mm-hmm.
The Colts are maybe in disarray, maybe not. Maybe they're just hardlining on Taylor. Maybe they feel good about their general outlook. Obviously, they just drafted a quarterback. So, in Anthony Richardson, I don't know. DeForest Buckner, I feel like, is that Goldilocks choice where they'd have to pay, the Colts would have to eat $5 million. They'd only have to pay him $14.5 million. He's the perfect candidate. If the Colts want a 2nd-round pick, I would do that no problem, because DeForest Buckner is like the 6th or 7th best defensive tackle in the league. He could go as high as 4th if you want, after Quinnen Williams and Aaron Donald and Chris Jones, right up there with Jeff Simmons. So I don't know, elite run defender, elite interior pass rusher, 2nd-round pick. He's 29, so that's in part why he wouldn't garner a 1st-round pick. The Colts can get out of the contract if they're trying to get ahead of that. If they don't want to renegotiate with him as he hits 30, 31, and they would rather get value while they can. I don't know. I mean, it's entirely contingent on if the Colts would even be willing, but like another guy is Grady Jarrett. The Falcons can get out of that contract, kind of a similar thing. I just think Buckner is a little bit better. So, and
He kind
the
of
other
fits more what Seattle needs, right, as well.
it's perfect.
Interior
It's perfect
kind of length, and primarily, well, not primarily, like there's always bonuses to everything, but you need it as much for the run defense as you do for the pass rush, right?
Right. And it helps the run defense in ways that would also benefit the pass defense indirectly, because it allows you to stay in the fronts that are softer on the run. And because run defense is all about how good of a run defense can you get relative to the resources you're committing to it in any given snap. So the easiest way to do that, if you want to scheme more toward the pass rush, have the guys that are out there be extremely good run defenders, and they can compensate for the lack of schematic attention devoted to the run. That's Buckner. I mean, that would also be Christian Wilkins, right? But it's like with Buckner, he can do 90% of what Wilkins could do against the run and like 150% of what Wilkins can do rushing the passer on guards. So,
yeah.
And then the other thing is when they've made these moves, it always comes out that they have been in contact with teams for a long time. So John Schneider takes us up to the minute, I think, because he's taking the negotiation up to the minute, and he's not willing to go above whatever his highest price range is, but he's willing to see if they will come down to his level, I think. That was what seemed to happen with Sheldon Richardson. If he had offered up a 1st-round pick, that trade probably happens in July, because he said they have been talking about it since the spring. So that trade ended up happening on September 1st. Now, the player they got is Sheldon Richardson. I mean, Sheldon Richardson never recaptured his early career self. And I don't think it was a lack of effort. I don't know what happened with him. But anyway, the point is that if they're doing anything, it might have already been in the works. And John Schneider talked about repeatedly how they wanted to take swing, or how they really wanted to improve defensive line. And Matty, you mentioned to me before we started recording, Pete said that they're still competing at defensive line, in the classic Pete language. So I don't know, if something happens, it could still be happening is all I'm saying. We're not out of the woods yet of something not happening.
Yeah. And David, just revisiting one of the trades we spoke about just then, David points out Dwayne Brown was traded for Jeremy Lane initially. He failed his physical after the hit he suffered in the Super Bowl. That's right. I forgot that. And then they had to give up another pick, didn't they, or something?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So, but the point being, their past history indicates that there may well be a player going the other way, and that kind of helps the cap out, doesn't it? Did you mention the Noah Fant possibility?
Yeah, so the other thing to fit things in the cap is that if they trade him, the other team takes on the entirety of the contract. So that would free up just under $7 million. So DeForest Buckner would be a net cap loss of, what I'm saying is that they'd have to pay DeForest Buckner in this hypothetical. It's 14.5 minus 7 basically. So they're paying him 7.5, just under 8 this year if they were to acquire him in the hypothetical. And pretty much the same thing goes for Grady Jarrett.
Yeah. My issue with the Buckner thing is I just don't know why the Colts would do that. I know he's 29.
They wouldn't.
It just doesn't. Like, if his contract wasn't that easy to get out of, we wouldn't be talking about it, basically.
That's pretty much, I mean, when we're talking about... It just
looks like a bait contract.
Right. The only names that I've even looked at are the contracts that are easy to trade for the team trading him. Because otherwise, it's the Seahawks can't accommodate it. If the Seahawks had an exorbitant amount of cap space this year and next year, which they have decent cap space next year, just not a lot, then they could probably negotiate a restructure, flatten the cap out a little bit, smooth it out over the course of a few years and stuff. But I don't think they have the luxury or liberty to do that. They need a Goldilocks situation. That's probably, if they had more flexibility, they probably would have been more aggressive in making a trade. I think it's because they don't, that John is probably waiting for a Goldilocks situation. And I should just say this. They have been calling around per sources. Now,
about what?
About acquiring defensive linemen, the guys that put their hands in the dirt.
You're going that specific.
But the way that was relayed to me was, what was not shared was any sort of like descriptors that would make you think it's more than usual. So I didn't know what to make of it.
Like a big blockbuster as opposed to like a churn of the, like a mid-tier or low-tier dude.
And the type of thing that John Schneider always says is, when his quote that you could quote him almost every offseason on is, "We're in on everybody." So he picks up the phone whenever anyone's name makes the news or whatever he hears. He'll pick up the phone. We have no idea what that means, though. Like,
due diligence.
Yeah, exactly. So we really have no idea what that means. I'm just saying that this year it would make sense, right?
Wow. We're sharing all the nuggets.
It would make sense more than most years, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it would, definitely. And, as Pete Carroll tends to do, in his press conference today, he said, specifically when talking about the defensive line, we're always competing or something like that. We will stop talking about trades, but we will always entertain Griff's sickness. Heck, it's my sickness too, until the trade deadline, which is October the 31st at 4 p.m. Eastern, which is, I think, 7 p.m. Pacific time. So October the 31st is the date in the diary. Seattle, definitely, like, it's obvious to everyone, they would like to make a bit of more of a splash interior defensive line, because right now their projected first string is Jaron Reed, Mario Edwards, and Draymond Jones, which is fine, but it's not as good as they would like, I don't think. We could say the same about inside backer, but we don't need to get into that wormhole again. Griff.
This will be the first year that Mario Edwards is starting since, like, his rookie year.
Not only is he starting, but he's playing on the interior, which is the first time he's played on the interior since his rookie year.
No. He played there for the Bears, but he was kind of a tweener there too.
That's right. Yeah.
But it still was not significant. So, like, he's a fine player, but he should be coming off the bench.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that fun news, and Pete Carroll obviously optimistic about Mario Edwards, but with that fun outlook, we'll be back. Thank you for everyone for joining. Please do like the video. How many likes have we got? We got 85 people we had at one point, which is amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. Like the video, review the podcast, give it a 5-star review. We only have 23 likes, so that figure needs to go up, essentially. It needs to go up, or we'll never podcast again, and I'll be really upset. We'll be back potentially later in the week, but also we're going to be previewing the whole season via a mailbag format to kind of keep that centralized. And then the Rams game, like real football, real Seahawks football, 2023 NFL football. How exciting. Film review will follow from that. We've got all this fun stuff. We also, Griff, need to talk about how the run defense has changed, and there's potentially going to be some different content on the channel as well. So
yes, indeed.
Follow Griff at CMikeSpinMove. Follow me at Matty F. Brown. Griff, do you have anything else to plug?
No. Just subscribe to Matty's stuff.
Yeah. Seahawksontape.com. There you go. And make sure you follow Griff. And you get dog content. Haven't had volcanoes for a while, but every bit can run its course and every bit can return. I'm sure during that peak
I do it every day.
Sickness,
I've never missed a day.
All right. And enjoy the moon.
Yeah, let's go check out the moon.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.